Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Sochi for free practice 2 of the TCR International Series, rounds 13 and 14 of this championship in its second year of incarnation. Thank you for joining us online, and we're going to get the cars out on this 5.853 metre circuit, so 5.83 kilometre circuit. A long circuit, well over 2 minutes for the touring cars, and therefore just an 11-minute lap. It's a beautiful day here, 30 degrees, the humidity rising, however, and potential rain forecast for qualifying. And when the rain comes here, as we found out a couple of days ago, it really does come. Let's go down and have a listen to Richard Coleman, who's joining Mark Cole to explain a little bit about this weekend.
Richard, first and second in free practice 1 this morning. A good start to the weekend for you.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that much at this stage of the weekend, but yeah, it's pleasing that everything we thought the setup would require seems to be there or thereabouts. It's a little bit difficult to judge here as well because the white lines are quite easy to cross, so it's hard to know how strict the stewards are being at this stage of the weekend on that too.
Now, Pape and James are sharing the lead of the Drivers' Championship. That presumably is a good position to be in at this stage of the season, probably not so much when we get to Macau.
Yeah, so far everybody's playing ball on that. It's not really changed the team environment at all, but obviously from the management side we have to keep an eye on that. But so far I have to say they're both being very professional about it, and they know there's still a long way to go.
Now, you've missed a couple of race weekends. Welcome back. Do you think your presence will bring good luck to the team?
Well, I hope so, otherwise they're not going to invite me back. But yeah, obviously there's sometimes clashes with our other racing programs. So it's nice to be here. It's great to be here for the home race of Lukoil. So our principal partner here. And yeah, no, hopefully I can bring the guys a bit of good luck.
Okay, good luck in this session.
Thanks very much.
Very good to see Dickie back. Hello, Dickie. And as he says, the Lukoil sponsorship adorning both James Nash, Sergei Afanasyev and Pepe Oriola. The championship standings are that Nash and Oriola share the lead of the championship with 145 points. James Nash being a little bit more consistent than Oriola. Oriola taking his third win of the championship last time out in Oschersleben. There is local favourite Sergei Afanasyev. He's taken part in every single one of the TCR International Series races, however, yet to take a victory. He's come close a few times. Sergei, a very, very successful rear-wheel drive specialist in GTs and single-seaters in his earlier career, and maybe doesn't quite get on with the front-wheel drive so much. We've got a couple of other Russians this weekend. One driving for the West Coast Racing in the number 18 Honda, Rakhmatulin, and Sheshenin is sharing the Liqui-Moly team, Enxler team, with David Kajaya. So that's number 19, Sheshenin, will be Liqui-Moly adorned. Obviously, David Kajaya from Georgia. We are pretty much on the Georgian border here, so this is a home race for him. We've already had a recce of the Georgian circuit that may well form part of the International Series calendar next year. Wouldn't that be great to get international motorsport over in a place where, you know, you wouldn't really expect there to be a track, but Kajaya, a multiple champion there, and great to have him in this championship, learning his craft. He's pretty quick when the team get the car working. Also good to have James Nash in the championship this year. I should call it a series, it's not a championship. James, obviously, independent champion in the World Touring Cars. He went off to do GTs for a little bit in the GT3 Audi R8 and the GT4 Lotus. Now he's back in front-wheel drive and really, really loves it. He says it's much more fun to drive a front-wheel drive car than the rear. He's equal on points with Oriola. Hommler, after a great weekend in Oschersleben, now just 4 back. He took the lead of the championship after the first race in Oschersleben. Kamini and Venet are the next 2 drivers up in their Leopold Racing Volkswagen Golfs. Leopard even. I seem to have got that Golf working better than Liqui-Moly. And so we've seen some good results, some wins for both Jean-Carl Venet, who's new to front-wheel drive, and to the series champion last year, Stefano Kamini. And we've seen big, big gaps from people like Oriola, who was 30 points ahead a few races ago, and that championship lead has been just eaten up cars now heading out onto circuit. Ignore the car in the very background. It's going back after the TCR Russia practice session that we had here. The Russian Touring Car Championship adopting TCR regulations for 2016. So lovely to have our partners in the sister championship, I suppose you call it. Off now to explore the Sochi Autodrome. It's had 3 names in its very short history as a circuit. Finished in 2014 when the Winter Olympics, this became the Winter Olympic Park. In fact, we are in the Olympic Park. It still has borders all the way around it. And so the circuit formed part of the access roads to various facilities around the Olympic Park. We've got the ice rink, we've got the main stadium where speed skating took place. And they've all been rehoused now. So the tennis academy, for instance, is now one of the buildings that we'll drive past. No Rakhmatulin yet, whether he's still coming out of his TCR Russia car and he's missing the start of Free Practice 2, who knows. There is one of the Olympic buildings, the Armadillo, that's affectionately known as. So this circuit was known as the Sochi International Street Circuit. Then it became the Sochi Olympic Park Circuit, and now it's the Sochi Autodrome. It's not really a street circuit. The walls are very, very close to most of the racing line, as you can see, but these roads are closed off at all points of the year. There's no white lines, there's no dual carriageway. This is a racing track through and through, and a lot of rubber still down. Don't get a huge amount of rain here in Sochi, so it's not a clean track. We actually did have a bit of rain the other day, storm rain, and a lot of flooding around. But you'll see in the braking areas a lot of rubber down, especially in some of the areas which are a bit more tricky braking zones, like this one where you're kind of turning and braking at the same time. You can see a lot of rubber down there. That will be horrible if it rains this afternoon. Little speed bumps on the inside of some of these curbs. The curb's very low for Formula One, so there's some build-up of concrete they put just on the inside of the curbs to stop cutting, but some of those are a bit lower than others. So we do also have some Tech Pro barriers to stop cutting on the apex of turns. The question is, what about on the exit of the turns? And that's a bone of contention for a lot of the teams and drivers here. Can you go 4 wheels off? You see the AstroTurf on the outside there of the curb. The wheel gets onto that, then you lose traction. So the idea from a driver's point of view is not to go onto that AstroTurf because it will lose traction. Now, if you've got an overgripped car, then it actually might free it up a little bit, so it'll allow the engine to run a bit freer, especially turbo-wise. So you might see a couple of people do that, or it'll just be a mistake. Coming down to what is turn 3, although it looks like the first proper turn. It's a chicane. It doesn't really give the impression of a chicane from that camera angle. And now we go through this very, very, very long left-hand turn. Oriola leaving a lot of black lines through there. You can see it's off camber. That means the apex of the corner, the inside of the corner, is higher than the outside, and therefore a car will be forced down the hill, away from the apex of the turn, and it's the driver's job to keep it tight through there. Big challenge in a Formula One car with rear-wheel drive. Not so much of a challenge on the front-wheel drive cars, but a little bit maybe in terms of using the tyres at the end of the races. That will be one of the places where the cars will start to wash out. The front end will try to straighten up as they keep turning the wheel. You'll induce a lot of understeer through there. These are the first laps then that we'll be seeing. In qualifying setup, we've only got 10 minutes of Q2, which is going to set the majority of the grid. We've got 15 cars on the entry list this weekend, so we'll just lose 3 cars in Q1. So it shouldn't be too much of a panic in Q1, but Q2 with just 10 minutes is going to allow them to do maybe 2 laps, maybe 3 laps if they're pushing. So we follow Oriola. He was half a second faster in Free Practice 1 than anybody else. Didn't have a particularly fun race 1 at last time out in Oschersleben, but did take victory in the second race of the weekend, his 3rd victory of the season. And he proudly told me yesterday, I've decided to be a little bit more aggressive this year, and I've already taken 3 wins. And obviously he was fighting for the championship last year, and he had less wins but was more consistent last year. So he feels like the strategy of going for the wins is a better one. His main rival, James Nash, though, if you watch our preview online, very much of a different attitude. He's about collecting the points. He's about any points will do. Don't be too silly. Does want to slightly smarten up his starts. Feels like he could be more aggressive on race starts in the first lap. But Oriola, we see, gets himself in all kinds of scraps, even in the middle of the race. So the times came in at 22.7 from Oriola on his first lap. That's pretty competitive. Be interesting to see if he gets another time out of this session. Here is Rakhmatulin jumping into his car. Now I presume that Rakhmatulin is been competing in the TCR Russia series that had their practice session, so that's why he's a bit late into the car. Oriola now on his second lap. Let's have a quick look to see what kind of time he's doing. It's Grashov who is the fastest man on circuit at the moment. Oriola has matched his first sector, and this is where it gets a bit confusing because these tyres are so good. These Michelin tyres are so consistent that even in your second and third laps you can be fractionally slower in the first sector and then maybe improve in the second sector. So you can see Oriola less than a tenth slower than his best time through sector 1. He'll come round to complete sector 2 in a few moments' time. Okay, he's lost 3.5 tenths there, so this isn't a particularly good example. Thanks very much, Pepe. Behind him is Mikhail Grashov, and Grashov is going faster. So the car behind is the man who is on the fastest lap at the moment. So Oriola through this really interesting little section of turns around the back of the paddock. That's actually very uphill, that first left-hand part of the chicane. Very off camber, and really pushes the car to the right-hand side, which then, of course, screws up your right-hand part of that turn. 2 right-hand corners then to finish the lap, and then Oriola comes around to complete. Now behind him is Grashov, just a couple of seconds behind. Oriola does a 23.1. Grashov, however, we're not going to see him, but he goes second fastest with there he is, just there, 22.8. So just a fraction slower in the final sector of the lap for Grashov. He misses out on being the fastest man, but only by a fraction of a second. And there is Mikhail Grashov, the Russian driver. Started his season with the Lukoil Racing, not the Lukoil, the Liqui Moly Volkswagen from Team Enxler, as he had been with for the whole of the 2015 series. Different cars driving for that, and he just wasn't getting on with it. So he moved over to the West Coast Racing Honda team, and instantly, and I mean pretty much second, well, he was fastest in one of the first race. Second race in Imola, he took victory, and then the next race in Salzburg, he took victory. So having only stood on the podium twice in 2015 for Liqui Moly, he then stood on the top step twice within 3 races of being with West Coast. Didn't have a very good weekend last time out, to be fair. It's a pointless weekend for him, in fact. But he will be looking forward to doing a lot better here. Now, Honda aren't particularly happy. Morbidelli had problems in practice. This car just seems to be... he has the same car, he has the same chassis for every race weekend. We've seen Aku Penelin's Honda, who was racing early on in the championship, with an incredibly fast car, didn't have any problems whatsoever, but Morbidelli's chassis just seems to have issues. And still continues to have issues. Meanwhile, Mikhail Grashov's pounding around, going right at the top of the leader standings. So it's Oriola. Nash is now second, just 200ths behind. Blimey, it's going to be close this weekend. Grashov then a 10th back. Morbidelli was 4th fastest before he dived into the pits. And we've got Stefano Camini on the lap. That's who we're watching now. Camini won race 2 here last year. Nice and close to the wall on the left-hand side to get the best run through this quick chicane. 2 chicanes follow each other, and we are now around the back of the paddock area. So this is this really lovely raised left hand. You've got to be really careful there, kind of tiptoe through that left hand bit, and then through the right hand turn. Morning, Adriana Borkovic. Yes, look on Twitter. She'll be tweeting from Dusan's account, and she may be doing some video. And wonderful. I've finally got myself a timing screen, which is really great. Let's hope it's working. So Kamini goes second fastest with 20 minutes left of the session. In terms of the gap, he's 2/10 down because Oriola improved by half a second on his last lap. So Oriola has now on a 22.2. That's left Nash on a 22.7, so they're half a second between them now. But Kamini slotted in between the two of them. Still watching Kamini, pushing on. Remember, you can get more than one lap out of these, and he hooks the inside wheel over the curb, but got a bit of a slide on through the midpoint of that corner, so that won't have helped him. It have rubbed his momentum off just a little bit. We haven't got his time up on the screens as yet, but as he completes the first sector, that should come through. A little rise in the braking zone there. There's the armadillo once again. I think that's ice skating. Got to get it right. So here's James Nash then. Kamini did a 52.4 in the first sector of the lap, so that wasn't a particularly strong first sector, as we saw with the slide. Nash then. Let's see his kind of body language in the car. Very smooth driver. As I say, he's been racing, started off Formula Ford, so rear-wheel drive single-seater, then moved into touring cars at the British Touring Car Championship, and then moved into the World Touring Car Championship with the Ford Focus. Stayed in the World Touring Car Championship for a few years with Bamboo Engineering, and then when Bamboo and the regulations changed and Bamboo didn't have so much commitment in the World Touring Cars, James decided to find himself a berth in a GT car in the Audi R8 run by WRT. And from there, he also ran his own Lotus GT4 program in the British Touring Car Championship. But this year, he's back in front-wheel drive, where I guess where he belongs, where he feels comfortable, and with his approach to racing, his consistent approach to picking up points, it really works when you've got firecrackers like Oriola in the championship as well. So not a particularly good middle sector. We saw him just snatch a break and miss the apex to one of our corners around the back of the lap. Very hard to identify corner by corner. Exactly, I suppose we call them turn 10 and 11, don't we? Something like that. But this nice high shot gives you a sense of perspective as we come back towards the paddock. If he carried on there going straight, he would end up in my commentary box. Then he goes left and right, round the back of the paddock area, and then onto the start-finish straight. Oriola's in the pits, as is Vladimir Shashian. And the wheels are being changed on Oriola's car, fronts to backs. A limited amount of tyres you get for the weekend, 16 sets, or 16 tyres, sorry, not 16 sets. And some of those tyres can be carried over from previous weekends, or some of them have to be, I think. So you get a certain amount of new, and then a certain amount of ones you've allocated from the previous weekend by looking at them, working out what kind of mileage they've done, if they've been abused at all. In theory, the teams will keep a log of every single tyre and will understand what kind of life, what kind of mileage each tyre has done. So then they'll pick the best ones to carry over to the next weekend. But of course, you may well have flat spotted them. You may well have picked up some dirt on them. So lots of things to consider when picking tyres. Here's Morbidelli. He's actually found good time in the middle sector, a little bit faster than Oriola between sector 2. So now around the back of the lap. I think that's probably, yeah, okay, we'll wait for him to come to a camera that's working, shall we? Because I think we've got a hole here. Nice chance to have a look at the Alfa Romeo. Okay, so here's Gianni Morbidelli through the final turn then. Is he going to go faster than Oriola? He had the momentum in sector 2, but loses time in the last sector to only go 4th. So we've got Oriola, Camini, Jean-Carl Vernet then in 3rd position, and Morbidelli 4th. And then Nash, Kajaya, Homola, Grashov, Tassi, and Dusan Borkovic. Half the session remains. There's Borkovic, Serbian driver. ETCC champion in this same car, but with different, slightly different setup and slightly different, well, definitely different tyres that have been the main problem for B3 Racing. They've really struggled to get the tyres lasting throughout the race. They're very, very good at one lap pace. We've had Borkovic and Homola on pole positions. I think Borkovic has had 2 pole positions now. Homola has had 1. Most of the pole positions have gone to the B3 Racing team throughout the year. Homola was on pole in Estoril, Borkovic was on pole in Spa, and then Borkovic was again on pole in Oschersleben. Interesting to note that of our championship challengers, Oriola and Nash have not taken a pole position yet. Neither have managed to be ultimately the fastest. Jean-Carl Vernet in the pits, first year in front-wheel drive, first year in TCR. Definitely enjoying himself. Last night we had a really nice volleyball tournament, team by team, and Stefano Camini was sitting on the pitch making volcanoes, whilst Jean-Carl Vernet managed to pick up 3rd position for the Leopard Racing beach volleyball team, all by himself against the Alfa Romeo duo of Michele Cerruti and Peter Fullin. So here's Homola. He's had victories. Well, his first victory came in Oschersleben last time out. That elevated him into first in the championship. Such has been his consistency of picking up points. And it's all about that. It's all about the consistency of, you know, if you don't have necessarily a good day, you're not going to get on the podium, you'll still pick up enough points to continue the momentum forward. Afanasiev is the fastest man on the circuit at the moment. Homola is faster than him, though, through the first sector. So what kind of tyres has Homola got for the 2nd and 3rd sector of the lap? Little lock up. That seems to be the tricky area. We saw Nash doing the same thing, but from that camera angle, I think it's the rear tyre that's locking. It's Afanasiev who's just gone fastest, the first man in the 21.8 second bracket. What can Homola do in answer to that? Nash went faster than Afanasiev in the first sector, but fractionally slower in the 2nd sector. Actually, Afanasiev's first sector wasn't very good, and therefore Homola was faster than that as well. It's a long, long middle sector, 43, 44 seconds, and Homola's dropped 0.4 of a second in that middle sector. So Afanasiev now fastest from Oriola and Nash. It's a Lukoil Seat 1, 2, 3. And then Camini, Morbidelli, Vernet, Kajaya, Homola in 8th position. Got to be tidy through this first part. No need to push too hard. And we're just a bit of tweaking going on for one of the Alphas. That will be Cerruti with the Italian flag wing mirrors. John Gentry looking on, seeing what's going on. Great to have that Alpha fighting in the points in Oschersleben last time out. And if you haven't yet watched the Oschersleben races, the 26-minute highlight program is on our YouTube channel. You also can catch up on the full races if you've got a bit more time to yourself. But some absolutely awesome action. All of our races are across our YouTube platforms, and you can catch up on every single event of the 2015 and 16 season. There is Mickey, winner of the fan vote, the Hawkers fan vote last time out. She beat Antti Buri, who was a guest driver. Good effort from Buri, though, to do both races in the TCR German Series and the TCR International Series. So he raced races in Oschersleben and all the practices and qualifyings that went with them. So he was a very busy man, but ultimately didn't quite have the same fan base, unsurprisingly, as Miki Ceruti. So she received 6 pairs of Hawker sunglasses and was proudly displaying them at the volleyball tournament last night. Now, just stumbling there because Oriola took a lot of curb through the second of the chicanes coming towards the paddock, and I know that race director is not really allowed to do that. Now, we are getting warnings on the screen. Car 9 and car 10 have both been warned for track limits at turn 2. So that is the first chicane. Oriola goes faster again, a 21.3, half a second faster than teammate Afanasiev. That'll be new tyres, the circuit rubbering in. He's obviously made a positive setup change as well. Inside the Alfa Romeo of Miki Ceruti, as work continues to go on that little Alfa. So what can James Nash do now? He's a second behind his championship rival. We start a lap with him. We saw him make a little mistake mid-lap last time. Let's see if he can tidy it up a little bit for this particular lap. Braking in turn 1 then. That's turn 2, because turn 1 is kind of the sweeping right-hander. So through that chicane, now it's what's probably known as turn 4, that long left-hander. As we watch Morbidelli, is he going to get going again? I think he is. Now, Vladimir Sheshin is 14th at the moment, but he improves up to 7th. Good effort from Sheshin, who's faster than David Kajaya, his teammate, by just a 10th of a second at this point in proceedings. What did James Nash do? So Nash went faster than he's previously been through Sector 1, as we look at Sergei Afanasiev, who's a bit further round the lap. But Afanasiev has made a mistake in the second part of the lap, so he's not quite as fast as Oriola. A bit more tidy over that curb. You can see the car sort of skipping around. All of that skipping, you lose control, and obviously you slice off a bit of time, a bit of momentum. Here is Ildar Rakhmatulin in the West Coast Racing Honda that's kind of been a bit of a hot seat this year, ever since Kevin Gleeson gave it up. Rakhmatulin goes 4th. Improvement from Jean Carvenet, who goes up into 2nd position. Afanasiev did not improve. Nash has had a pretty poor middle sector as well, but Kamini is the man who's on the move in the 3rd sector. Can Kamini get himself above Oriola for the fastest time of this session? And the answer is yes. Stefano Kamini goes faster than Oriola. We have a race on our hands this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Volkswagen have been given a little bit of a setup break. They are allowed to run the car to a fraction lower, creating a bit more downforce on the front end, and possibly even through the rear of the car as well with the diffuser. And that is going to help, well, it should help all of them, but it's going to help the charge of the Leopard racing duo of Vernet and Kamini, who at the moment are 1st and 3rd in the standings. We've got Leopard and Lukoil Bamboo in the top 5 positions before we get to Gianni Morbidelli. Right, what can Borkovic do? Borkovic at the moment is only 11th fastest. A little bit of traffic ahead of him. Attila Tassi is 12th behind him, but Homela 9th ahead of him. Have B3 guys got this track sorted, or have they got some work to do before qualifying? As I said, they've taken 3 pole positions of the 7 events so far this year. There's that unladen inside right rear locking up. His teammate Homela's in the pits. And Borkovic is up in the 1st sector on his previous time, but he's about a 10th and a half down on Kamini. At the moment, it's going to be a better time for Borkovic. Window down, it's horribly humid, and that's the worst thing about the heat here. It's not dry heat like you might get in the Middle East. It's really wet heat because we've got the sea really close, and it makes it feel more, makes it feel hotter than it actually is. So 30 degrees, but it's wet, and so all these drivers will be getting very, very sweaty. Borkovic has the window down just to allow some airflow. He's what did I miss? He's lost a huge bundle of time in the middle sector. He's 1.4 down in sector 2. Let past by Stefano Camini, who's going slower. Mato Homler drops off his jacks. Right, 4 minutes left of the session. This is where we're going to get the representative lap times in. Nash has got Camini right behind him, and they're both on new, faster laps. And if Nash is going to open the door for Camini, no, they're still on full power mode. Camini, the fastest man out there, just ahead of Pepe Oriola by 0.04 of a second. Nash has now dropped down to 6th. Peter Fullin in the Alfa Romeo has got up to 5th. That's great to see. So while Michele Ceruti is still struggling a little bit with her car down in 15th spot, Peter Fullin is 5th. Yay, Alfa Romeo, go. Watching Attila Tassi, I think, has made a rather large error around the back of the circuit there. And there are bosses from Lukoil, Seat and Bamboo, all watching on. What can Morbidelli do? Accelerates towards the line, and he goes 5th fastest, knocks Peter Fullin down, but he is 6/10 off the ultimate pace of Stefano Camini. Here is Tassi's error. Yep, there we go. That was Tassi getting a little bit too hot into one of our corners at the back of the circuit. Stefano Camini's on a great lap. Right behind James Nash. Nash hasn't had such a good run through sector 2. There is Nash. Oh, Camini's ahead of him, that's why. So Camini's got past him, and now is he going to go even faster? It'd be interesting to see, because Pepe Oriola, who is in the first half of the lap, has gone 6/10 far. That can't be right. 6/10 faster in the first sector alone. According to our graphics, Camini is on a charge, and Oriola is charging even more. Round to the final part of the lap then. James Nash is not the one we're supposed to be looking at. Oriola is... Oh, Camini's going to the pits. That's why our cameraman got very confused. So Camini's got some more pace in his back pocket. Noted. Here's Oriola then. No. Oriola is now in the last part of the lap, and he is pushing a little bit harder, maybe to try and steal away that fastest time of the session. We're watching Peter Fullin, who is on a lap, I think. There's Oriola. Now, again, taking a lot of curb through that left-hand turn, the rear of the car bouncing around. I'm sure he needs to be a bit tidier than that. I'm sure taking that amount of curb is not helping him. But at the moment, he's equal on Camini's lap time. Let's see what he can do. He was 8. Oh no, he dropped a load of time in the middle sector. But he does go faster. Okay, I'm so confused now with the graphics. Oriola is faster by 0.2 of a second. Camini second now. And Grashov in 3rd position in the Honda. He's recently improved, just ahead there of Oriola. Vinay is 4th. Afanasiev, Morbidelli, Fullin, Nash down in 8th. And Stefano Camini has jumped out of his car and called it a day so far. He knows he's got more pace. I'm sure he's confident. Looks a bit sweaty though, doesn't he? He's wearing Pepe Oriola's boots this weekend because he forgot his own. So the racing boots that he adorns are those of Pepe Oriola. He reckons he'll go faster with his feet on. Nash has been given a final warning for track limits. as has Attila Tassi. And we're watching Attila Tassi. I don't know quite where they're being watched because there are so many areas for track limits around this circuit. Very hard to police. Now through this long, long left-hander. As we watch Afanasiev down the box. And he accelerates his way around the back end of the circuit. He is an improvement, half a second down on Oriola, his teammate, but he is an improvement. Here's Jean-Carl Venet, JK, back into the pits. And Nash chucks his car through the final turn to take the checkered flag. We didn't have a running clock on him. And I can tell you, no improvement from James Nash. Stays in 8th position. Not the strongest of qualifiers, James. Never is quite on the ultimate pace throughout this season, but still doesn't necessarily affect him championship-wise because he still racks up those points. As Afanasiev completing his lap, a second down on Oriola, so stays in 5th position. Others still on a lap. Grashov is slight improvement, as is Morbidelli. Here's Mato Homola. Now he's made a big old error in the middle of the lap, so he's not an improvement. Stays 11th. That's not great, really, for his championship challenge, but maybe B3 will find some pace over the lunch break. Bulkovic 13th, Tassi 12th, and Homola 11th. They've only got Rakhmatulin and Cerruti behind them, so B3 have got some work to do in terms of setup. The first time, maybe in the hot conditions, that they're struggling. And it is a fundamental setup difference between hot and cold. And Oschersleben obviously very, very cold. Estoril low grip as well, and B3 just seem to find grip where there isn't any grip. But when it comes to the hotter tracks like this, seem to struggle a little bit. Morbidelli comes over the line, made a mistake in the final sector, stays in 6th spot, but I think he would have been probably maybe 5th, just ahead of Afanasiev, only able to complete that lap. Honda doesn't sound particularly happy, does it? So Oriola gets wheeled back into his Lukoil Bamboo garage. It says Lukoil in my heart on the front bumper. Doesn't sound particularly healthy, to be honest. I think you want blood in there, Pepe. All the cars have taken the checkered flag or are already in the pits. Track warning limits all over the place. We'll keep an eye on that for you when we come to the the racing and the qualifying itself. Oriola, though, fastest in FP1 by half a second, fastest in FP2 by 0.2 of a second, an improvement of about 0.8 between the two sessions. And now we just got to make sure the humidity doesn't increase any further in the next couple of hours and we don't get any rain. That would not be very nice, and it'd be very tricky for the drivers to find any kind of a setup out on the circuit. Qualifying kicks off at about 3 o'clock local time, so -2 for the UK, -1 for Europe. Here are the results of free practice 2. Oriola, Kamini, Grashov, and then Venet. So 3 different manufacturers in the top 3 positions. Venet, Afanasiev, Morbidelli, another spread of Volkswagen, Seat and Honda. Peter Fullin in the Alfa Romeo in 7th, Nash, Kajaya and Sheshenin around out the top 10 positions. And then Homola, Tassi and Borkovic, B3, have got some work to do. 1.5 seconds off the Seat. Rakhmatulin 3 seconds down, and Cerruti with problems in 15th spot.
Pepe, fastest in free practice 1 and now fastest in free practice 2. A good morning's work.
Yeah, seems that the change of setup worked well. In the middle of the session, we stopped and we put some fresh tires, as I had from since 11. But even if they're not new, I saw that there were all drivers putting new tires, and we're still faster than them. So I think if we don't do any mistake, we can fight for the top positions in qualifying. So yeah, really happy.
The front of the radiator is covered in locusts or grasshoppers or something. That was a problem yesterday. Is it going to be a problem again today?
Well, for the moment, I didn't have any signal of high temperatures, so I guess it's good. But we're more worried about the race, because now if we have it in qualifying, we have to stop, we can remove them, but the problem in race will be that we will not be available to stop and take it off. So which one is going to be leading, we're going to have to kill all of them, and then the following will have fresh air, you know. So I don't know, we'll see what happens.
Okay, we'll see you later.
Thank you.
So Oriola then swigs some water. We'll be getting qualifying underway in a couple of hours, but the most important thing now, of course, for all of the drivers and engineers and mechanics and organisation is lunchtime. Yes. Gianni Morbidelli, has he got a smile on his face or is he grumpy? We will soon find out. I'm going to get a thumbs up from Gianni? No. Okay, so he feels like he's got some work to do with the Honda. Honda used to struggle, used to be very strong with the heat, and now they've got better in the setup for the cold conditions, but have kind of got worse in the heat. So I think they're a little bit worried. You can see the Liqui Moly guys digging out the radiators. I don't know if we're going to get a good shot of the radiators. I would like to see if we can see them. Absolutely full of locusts. The circuit is covered in locusts, and that is causing overheating problems as well as the hot conditions and the humidity. Problems for everybody around the pit lane. Join us in qualifying for in about 2 hours' time to find out who'll take pole here in Sochi.